So in Indiana, biggest expense, for a homeowner's insurance policy, it's going to be the roof. Like that's the number one cause of loss. It's really about the experience, and it's growing in a way that's a brand that you can be proud of. The approach that we take is you'll find that we're very educational, consultative.
Welcome back to another episode of Andy's Talk. I am Ethan Andes, and I'm joined with a really awesome dude that I've gotten to know pretty well. This is Daniel Dieterlen with Innovators Insurance Group. And we talk about roofing stuff a lot, and I would really like to get some perspective. We're going to call this a local business spotlight, probably one of many that we're going to be rolling out in the future. But I wanted to learn about Daniel personally and then know more about Innovators Insurance Group because we've worked with them in the past, and they've done an amazing job. And I want to make sure that everybody that contacts us knows about them and hopefully vice versa.
Absolutely. Yes, thanks for having me on. And I just want to echo that, like what you said about working together, and you guys always take great care of our clients. So thanks for having me on.
So insurance aside, every business starts with an owner, and that owner is not just a business or an individual. So tell us about yourself, man. Tell us about your family.
Yeah. So I grew up in the community. I've always lived in Clark County, live in Charlestown, Indiana. Most of my family's around here. God's really blessed me with a wonderful family. I've been married to my wife, Danielle, coming up on 11 years. Got 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. Just, being a dad's the best, man. I just love it.
Yeah. Did you go to college around here?
I did. I went to IUS. Community College.
I went there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, always, I just can't leave this small town, man. I love it. Indiana boy for life.
So what got you into the insurance game?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's funny. I noticed you don't meet many people that want to be an insurance agent when they grow up, but
roofers.
Yeah. But what you always notice, or at least I always notice, is that the insurance agents, they always seem like nice guys or nice gals. Like they're just good people in the community, involved in their kids' school. So I actually got started at one of the insurance companies I'm sure you've heard of, but I was what was considered a captive agent. So there were things I really liked about it. The aspects I liked about it were I got to solve problems and I got to help people. And then the longer I was in it, I was like, you know what? I would like to solve bigger problems and I want to help more people. So really decided the best way to do that was to go on my own as an independent agent.
Can you explain that a little bit more? So what is a captive agent?
Sure. So there's a few different business models. There's a direct, captive, and independent. So if you think of a direct, that's going to be, like the ones you see on TV that you call 1-800 number. That's who gets your policy. A captive agent is your local, on the corner. They write through one insurance company, and that is where they're, who they work for is the company. So they have one option when it comes to writing your insurance policy. Independent, it's a little bit different. So the same way that you have an agent that works with that company, as an independent, you have multiple companies that you can work with.
So I'm assuming if you're independent, if you're captive, you have to represent who you represent. If you're independent, correct, I'm assuming that you get to do pros and cons list and find the real best options for your customers and be able to provide a solution that maybe isn't biased to we offer this, so it has to be this.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, I understand that. So on our side, we've worked with a lot of different insurance companies, and it seems like the independent guys that understand who that they support and write business for and why they support them, we've had much better relationships, and the homeowners usually get taken care of a lot better. So one of the things that drew us to you all was your knowledge of the different carriers, and then you helped us. It was very consultative. Went through our policies, helped us figure out a lot of things with the company, and then every homeowner that I have ever referred to you all, it's not just like one size fits all, here's an option, let's go. You take the time and break down different liability, risk, payment options, all that kind of stuff. And I don't see that a lot. And that takes a lot of education on your part. Right. So tell us about that. It sounds like you like insurance.
Yeah. Right. Well, and with our company, so we have personal lines and commercial lines, but either way, you hit the nail on the head. That's the approach that we take is you'll find that we're very educational, consultative. So we want people to understand what the policy is, what risks they have. One thing that we tell people, we want you to understand what the risks are and a way that you can transfer that if you want. If you're comfortable with the risk, that's okay, but we at least want you to know about it and give you an option to transfer that. And we always tell people, like, hey, if we save you $150 a year, but you have an exposure of $20,000 down the road, we really haven't done you any favors. So just making sure that people understand what they're getting and what they're potentially not getting. Avoid surprises. That's the big thing.
So based on these consultations that you have with homeowners, you see a lot of different things. What are the things that you would say if you were looking at a homeowner's policy that they really need to be educated on, or things that ultimately bite you?
Right. I would say I'd probably give 3 to 5 really quick, big picture things to look for if you wanted to kind of do a self-assessment. I would say look at the coverage amount of your home, or coverage A, your dwelling limit. So that is the most that they would pay if you had a total loss of your home. So make sure that is a reasonable number, that it would comfortably rebuild your home. I would say liability is a big one. So a home policy, similar to an auto policy, has a limit of liability. If somebody gets hurt in your property, there's only a certain limit that the insurance company will defend you up to. And I've seen policies with $100,000 or $300,000. I would say, call your agent right now and say, hey, I want to raise it to at least $500,000, preferably $1 million or an umbrella. It's probably going to be less than $10 a year to make that change.
Wow. So what you're saying is, let's say your house burns down and they only go up to $300,000 on a $350,000 house. They don't owe for that extra $50,000.
Correct. So that's with the coverage A, and then the liability limit would be if somebody got hurt. Let's say you had a pool, or you had a dog bite, or something really terrible happened, and somebody's suing you for $1 million. So if you only have $100,000, after that $100,000 is spent in defending you, then that person will come after you personally.
So that would not be. You have an umbrella policy.
If you have an umbrella policy, that will stack another $1 million on top of that.
Yeah. So homeowners, I would say, very rarely think of liability other than their house, or maybe a sump pump backup, roof problem. There's lots of different things that happen, but you're talking about liability as a separate event, things that are out of your control, like the neighbor's kid coming over and breaking their leg in their front yard.
Right.
And from what I understand, like, that's not them coming after you, right? It would be the insurance carrier or the lawyers or whoever.
Right. It really depends on the situation. It can be them, but you're right. A lot of times it could be their insurance company or someone like that.
And we've heard of cases where, they would settle that with the policy, and the homeowner wouldn't be even. I guess they'd find out after the fact.
Sure.
And that would affect the homeowner, wouldn't it? Their premiums.
So I think that would be a different scenario. So a lot of times there's a medical payments limit within the policy. Those are the ones that are kind of the behind the scene, and that's kind of I'll call it sometimes like the "don't sue me" fund.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gets settled and nothing happens. But if there's negligence, or if they decide like, hey, like that's not enough, I need to recoup these losses, and they do sue you, then you will be notified and start that ugly litigious process.
These are all the things that maybe when people come in, you wouldn't go down that rabbit far on a rabbit trail, but they're conversations that need to be had.
Correct.
We run into it all the time on our side, where they have different deductibles for wind and hail versus what the regular home deductible would be. And the thing we're seeing the most right now is insurance carriers changing the policies after a certain amount of time,
Right.
not to cover the full amount.
Right.
I think I understand why that they do that. Maybe it makes a cheaper policy on the front end, but I know you know about that very well. Like, do you do that on every policy where you explain to the homeowner all those different little things?
Right. Yeah, that was actually number 3 on my list. Was you hit it on that again. So the roof. So there's 2 ways. So in Indiana, biggest expense, for a homeowner's insurance policy, it's going to be the roof. Like, that's the number 1 cause of loss, followed probably by water damage in the basement. But number 1 being roof. So there's 2 ways that companies are kind of offsetting that cost. So, this past year we had so many storms, a lot of roof claims. So companies are kind of the insurance companies are adjusting premiums or finding ways to offset like the coverage amount. So that's another thing that I would say, look at your policy and know your deductible. Know it for wind and hail. Sometimes it might say $1,000 for this, but wind and hail, 1% or 2% of what your home is insured for.
Where would that be shown at on somebody's policy?
It should be, it's usually within the first couple pages, usually the first page, if not like.
Is that like the declarations page
Correct.
or one of those?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I went through all the insurance adjuster training at one point in my career, and all of it was just to learn those different parts of the policy to be able to educate homeowners better. But
Right.
really, we're not allowed to talk to policy on our side. But you all, I mean, if you're offering the policy, I would think every insurance agent would do that and explain that to a homeowner. But from what we're seeing in the market is that homeowners have no idea what kind of coverage. And the story of, we've been with them for 30 years and paid our premiums, but maybe, increase in market, whatever it is, they're not adequately covered.
Right.
So how often would you say a person should review their policies?
It kind of depends on the person's situation. So if you're having some lifestyle changes, having kids, having, drivers, I think it makes sense to at least do it once a year. For most people, that's going to be enough. But to your point, whenever you get your renewal package of the policy, it's probably 100 pages. Somewhere on one of those pages, it might say, oh, by the way, you're not getting replacement cost on your roof anymore. It's going to be actual cash value here on out. So you're going to get a depreciated amount. And most people don't read that, and understandably so.
Yeah.
So I mean, I say there is a responsibility too of the agent to, hey, like we want to review your policy with you, make sure that it's still meeting your needs. And that's something that we try to do. We try to be proactive, try to prevent those surprises, because that's just a bad spot to put somebody in. And, a lot of times, like you said, when we're reviewing policies, those are the first things we look at. What's your deductible, and is it actual cash value? Are you going to get what your old roof was worth, or are you going to get the replacement cost, less your deductible to put the new roof?
So I did a lot of research on the carriers that you reference and you support a lot, and I know that they're very, very good. And I know this because previously I blindly was with an insurance agent, and they put me with a carrier that had subpar reviews. There was just different things, and I was naive. And then we had a claim, and the communication was absolutely horrible. There was many, many screw-ups that were on the insurance's side, even down to checks bouncing that got to our bank for like auto stuff 3 times in a row. Wow. It was crazy stuff, okay? And then, unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way that, like, hey, you need to research the carriers that, like, let's say independent, but who are they actually supporting? So the ones that you're supporting, they are very, very strong. And from working with them on the claim side, I would say that they're very fair in how that they pay out and how they treat their homeowners. Not the multi-billion-dollar marketing budgets that are inflated, and you're not in good hands, or you don't have good neighbors kind of things, So I would consider us kindred spirits. I'm a self-development guy, a growth-minded. I'm trying to go to the moon. I'm trying to plan the way as I go. And I've kind of watched your all success, but what I'm curious about is, where are you going to take this insurance agency, man? Like the next 5 years, maybe.
Right. So I would say, of course, I've got my growth goals and the number goals, but similar to, I've heard you say this before, it's really about the experience, and it's growing in a way that's a brand that you can be proud of. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to grow a company. We've got a great team right now, and we're growing. We're adding team members, and as long as we can drive that experience, we can make a difference and do things a little bit differently and provide value in the marketplace and be, that's our main goal, is to do a great job for people. But I'm not going anywhere. Like I said, I've been in this industry for coming up on 10 years now, 8 years on my own. So, I mean, I just want to keep going, seeing how far we can go.
So behind the scenes, you and I have talked, and one of your major passions is commercial insurance. to my understanding, there's not a lot of insurance agents that are digging into the nuance of commercial policies, liability exposure in these different industries. And I mean, our policy, I would consider a commercial policy. And you've come through, you spent a lot of time, multiple meetings going through what ifs, different scenarios, all that. And then we've talked about all the training and stuff that goes into it. Is that something you're, actively pursuing? I mean, I know you're good at it, but are you leaning more into commercial in the next 5 years, probably?
We're really trying to, yes, develop our commercial team to, because it does take more management. It is something that I'm really passionate about, just because being a business owner and starting from, like, I see how much blood, sweat, and tears that you put into your company as you're building it. And then, the trust of a business owner to say, hey, I want you to protect this company, make sure nothing bad happens. Like, that's a huge amount of responsibility for us. So yeah, so to your point, we're always bettering. We're always, I've got a couple designations and I'm pursuing others. So, we're always trying to get a little bit better every day. So we're growing that team, trying to improve the overall experience, trying to, one thing that we're doing, our approach is like a prevent first approach. I think that's something that in the commercial industry, a lot of agents only focus on one part, and it's the buying the insurance. So, I think people could probably relate to this. Around your policy renewal period, you probably get really popular. So what we want to do is we want to partner with like-minded individuals, business owners who, want healthier, happy employees. They want more productive workplace. They want to take care of their people. We want to come in and partner with them, put the systems and procedures in place to prevent. We don't want to use insurance as our catch-all. We want to basically think of it as a pyramid, right? There's the base. A lot of, the insurance buying process, that's how a lot of people approach. Just buy my insurance policy. The second part of the pyramid is the, reacting. Like we have a claim. How do we manage that process? Is it a work comp claim, or is it a harassment or a cyber incident? And then the very top part is prevention. So if we can reverse that and we put most of our time into preventing, putting those systems in place, having fewer incidents to respond to, being better prepared for if they do happen, and then that all leads to cost savings on the insurance.
Absolutely. I know we've utilized, I think, a little bit of that with the safety stuff and different things where they say once motivation fades, you fall to the level of your systems and processes. And it's very clear, like your safety net of insurance, like you still fell off something to fall into that. And if you can prevent that on the front end, like you're saying, really, as a business owner in the commercial part, like you don't want to pay these deductibles. You don't have to deal with the liability. And the biggest part in growth is the time that it takes out. Like we want to, as entrepreneurs, move forward and, build plans and strategic alliances and, growth goals and scaling and hiring people and going that way. But then the liability that you build behind you have to protect your backside with, let's say, umbrella policies or upgraded liability policies and different things. So it's just a very good cautionary measure, I would say, knowing what I know now and knowing where, like, we were exposed in some areas with our policy and now we're not. We're doing great. So I can speak from personal experience to have that. Like, if anybody, shameless plug, if you have a commercial policy in the different trades or just really commercial in general, you have questions, reach out to Daniel. He took ours from a previous insurance agency and went through every little part. He's like, hey, this is great. Hey, you could be a little more covered here. Hey, this is awesome. And he helped us out quite a bit. So very consultative on that front. And you may be surprised at some of the areas that you probably need to either invest in to protect your backside, or he might say you may want to loosen up here. Like, our auto policy, for instance, like we had a very low deductible and how it was affecting our premium, we raised that and it saved us quite a bit of money. And Daniel brought that to the table, and like it's been a very, very good relationship thus far. You talked about your growth goals for the agency and stuff. I want to hear, so there's got to be some shiny, just some memories, because those first couple of years of growth, they're kind of a grind. I call them like the blackout years. You're just grinding and you're growing. But then usually well, hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I want to hear about an experience that you've had with a homeowner that just really, maybe an impactful experience where you were able to help a homeowner in a significant way with insurance.
Yeah, one of them that kind of stands out is I got to be careful here that I'm not, revealing too much information about someone, but I'll give an example. We had someone who had a truck insured as a private passenger auto, and was starting some type of contracting company. And
was this something I posted about within the last 6 months that I kind of alluded to it? It wasn't your situation, but I just like blanketed it.
It may have been. It may have been similar. So, yeah. So, shout out to Austin. He's one of my agents. Does a fantastic job. He was talking to this individual, and it came up through his natural, conversation that he was, using this for business purposes. And Austin was like, "Hey, you need a commercial auto. This isn't going to cut it." So it was more expensive to do it that way. He did it that way, and it was probably 2 weeks later, he was in a serious accident while, using it for business. So it would have been a pretty tough situation financially for him if he'd had the private passenger, because they would have denied the claim, said, no, it was being used for business, not private passenger as it was rated. And he would have been in a tough situation, probably could have lost his business. So
this sounds familiar. I don't know the specifics of your situation, but I bet it's similar. So what I posted online was, I think it was the Uber Eats or one of them. Like, if you don't know this and you're doing DoorDash or Uber Eats and you're delivering this food, that is considered a commercial endeavor. Like, that is a business. That is not personal auto. So if you get in an accident, am I right in this? Like,
correct.
They don't have to pay. And I don't know if Uber has any kind of backup insurance or anything like that, but you are technically a subcontractor to that. And, imagine you, God forbid, you kill somebody or something crazy happens, or you hit an 18-wheeler with $1 bazillion worth of whatever that damages. That's going to be bad, and you're not going to be covered. So I posted that online. I was like, hey, you might want to get somebody to look at your policy and make sure you're good on that stuff.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, no, that's good. Well, I tell you what, how can we get in contact with you guys?
Yep. So you can find us online, innovatorsinsurance.com. You can reach us at 812-252-4419. You can send us an email, give us a call, however you prefer. Look us up online. Yeah.
So I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag on the different insurance carriers that you promote. I highly support the ones that he promotes at his company. I know that they do good work and they give good coverage, but then really the customer experience on the back end that we talked about this is very good. And I know that you give these options tailored to whatever the person's specific needs are. And so reach out to Daniel. They do a consultation. They'll kind of fit you in what actually works for the homeowner the best, or the commercial business owner. So highly recommend Daniel, and I appreciate you being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.